Hey everybody, Will here. Welcome back to another video. And before I get into the topic of that video, I'm recording this on January the 1st, 2026. And I want to wish everybody that is watching a happy new year. And I hope that 2026 is your year and you get everything that you're setting out to achieve done. And yeah, just want to say that little piece. So today's video, I'm continuing on with Mistral's demos, because if you haven't seen me before or you're new to this channel, then I recorded two pretty popular videos, popular for me at the very least, over Christmas. The first one was a discussion and opinion piece, just talking with my co-founder, Ben, about Mistral's new models that they released earlier last year, I should say, sorry. And then over the Christmas period, I recorded another video, which was actually demoing these new open weight models. I got them to build a website. I was comparing the results. Again, it was a little bit off the cuff, but it seemed to do well. So in the spirit of continuing the trend, I am going to be doing another video on Mistral, but this time I'm going to be focusing specifically on the Mistral 8 billion parameter model, Ministral 3, 8B. And I'm going to be getting it to build a more fully featured project, or seeing if I can use it to build a more fully featured project. The test that I originally did, which was to get it to one-shot a landing page for a YouTube SaaS project, was a good starting point. However, I want to now see, can I use a model like the 8 billion parameter one, which can run on fairly modest hardware? Can I actually use that as a daily driver of some degree? And what better a way to do that than to use it for a few hours, record a video, and get it to try and build a project? So I'm going to be getting the model to program a Airbnb clone, essentially, it's a property rental site. Unlike the first demo video, I had a predefined brief already set up and ready to go, which I gave each the model to work on. This video, I'm actually going to take a step back from that, and I'm actually going to get the model to write the brief itself, see how good the model is at planning a project as well as actually executing on that project as well. Like the previous demo, I have a fresh directory loaded up into VS Code, and the tool I'm going to be using to do the coding itself is Nanocoder. This is an open source tool that I develop as part of the Nano Collective. It's completely free. It's completely community built. It's really cool. Go check it out. The link is in the description, and it's what I'm going to be using today. So the first prompt, and this is always my favorite prompt, the one to kickstart everything. And this is the one that is going to be used to write an initial brief, which I'm going to ask it to do as a markdown file in the directory. So it's worth noting here that I am not a prompt writing expert, but I think that actually adds to the test, because, I'm just going to use it as some regular guy here. So I have the prompt. I'm looking to create a website to rent properties for holidays and short breaks, very much like Airbnb. Can you write a brief for the MVP, the minimum viable product of this website? I want to tackle only the front end at the moment, so no back end required. I want this website to be modern, easy to use, and beautiful. I am going to give it a prompt. I like Next.js, Tailwind, and ShadCN, so that would be preferable. I know it's the AI stack, but we're going to go with it. I don't have a name, so choose one, see if it can, and also output this brief as a markdown file that I can read and work with you to adjust. Let's hit enter and see what we get out the other side here. Okay, that was absolutely rapid, and we have it wanting to create an MD file here. I'm just going to hit enter on it and get it to create that, and we'll see what we get. So here is the MVP brief. Logify, type holiday property rental platform, MVP for front end only. Yeah, sick. Core features, property listing and discovery. Browse properties by location, price, guest capacity and amenities. Search with filters. Super cool. Interactive 360-degree image viewer. I don't think that we need that. Dynamic pricing calculator shows availability, occupancy. Detailed description, amenities, house rules, guest reviews, embedded map, static mockup for MVP. Very nice. Smooth navigation and intuitive flow. This is great. It's even given some type stuff here for some mock data. Modern beachfront villa, Santorini, Greece. This is fantastic. Design principles, core palette, soft, neutrals, beige, grey with accent colors, teal and coral. We'll see if it can go along the lines of that. Excluded scope, MVP, backend services, no database, API or user authentication. So I think that it's done a pretty good job. There's a couple of things here that I want to change about it, but other than that, really good, really, really good. Let's try and get it to adjust something. Cool, so I just quickly asked it if it would adjust the plan to add some phases and to-dos. Again, I am under absolutely no illusions, although impressive this model is no Opus 4.5. I know its ability to follow instructions as context fills up and over a very long horizon is going to be unrealistic. The way I'm hoping to combat that is to break the development down into phases that different sessions of Ministral 3.8b can pick up with to-dos. So again, each new session can iterate and know where the last session got to in the development. So again, very happy, very successful. It looks like it wants to write this down. It looks good to me. I'm just going to accept the adjustment, and lovely, lovely. So I've gone ahead and cleared context for the model. I have a fresh session running, and now I'm going to see how far I can get into this plan, starting with phase 1. Now, one of the limitations of Nanocoder as a tool is I can't run interactive commands. So I'm going to have to run these first set of installation commands myself. But again, we can test if the model's done it correctly, and we can also get the model to update the plan itself as well. So the first one is I'm going to be doing phase 1.1 to initialize the project, and then it's very much going to be over to the model with phase 1.2. One of the things I'm particularly interested here is how granular the tasks have to get. With something like Opus 4.5 or even HiQ, one of the smaller Anthropic models, is you could just give it this entire brief and it would just carry it out phase after phase with no problem at all. However, I want to see how close I can get to that, but what I'd imagine is going to have to happen is I'm going to have to split it down into not only the phases, but potentially the individual to-dos, as well as clearing context. We will see, but that is my hypothesis. I'm currently running the first command here, which is to scaffold the Next.js app with the app router. That is going well. As you can see, we have a Logify folder in the overall project directory here, and it looks to be set up. So a win for the 8 billion parameter model so far with getting the correct command to set up Next.js. So you join me with phase 1.1 completed. We have a Next.js application set up here. We have ShadCN UI, and we also have Zustand for state management installed. This command was deprecated. However, that was an easy fix. And also a couple of these essential components didn't exist. So button and card obviously did, but modal and dropdown did not. This was ShadCN dialog and ShadCN select. So it got the name of these components wrong. It's probably just as well that I was running these commands myself, but it allowed me to catch that. And I think this is going to be a kind of a trend with the 8 billion parameter model, is that you can use it for lots of these different tasks. However, you do have to have a weather eye on what it's doing and break up the tasks in a granular way. Just really quickly, and this is something I want to point out, is that the model seems to be getting quite confused with where the project directory actually is. In the plan, it says it's in /source/ whatever the directory is as a subdirectory. However, that is not quite true. Relative to the plan document I'm passing it is actually in the Logify directory here, Logify then source. And the model was getting quite confused, as you can see here in the chat window, that it's looking for the files according to what we're after, but it actually can't find it, and it wants to keep creating it. So what I've gone ahead and done is simply search for all instances of source in the brief, and I've pre-appended Logify just so that the model can hopefully find the directory that we're after. This is probably not that relevant to most projects because you're going to be working within the working directory. However, just because of how we've set this project up, it is a problem. And if you use this model for work, just bear in mind, it is quite literal. You have to be quite descriptive with what you want to do and how it should do it. Else, it fills in the gaps in a very literal sense. So again, just checking in here, and I've given it the plan and I've told it to carry out phase 1.3 to do 1, which is to create some of these type files. What is quite impressive here is it's again struggled to find the source directory's location, but it's run a bunch of tools here and it has found it. It's then looked at the directory and it's now carrying out the type creations. Here it is. It's creating the 2 files. We have a write file tool call here. Let's see if these are correct. It's done 1. There it is. It took a second to generate this one, but it created the mock data as well. And yeah, looking fairly good. We have the types. It imports the types, and the data is looking as the plan suggests. It's even tried to put in some images here, so I'll be interested to see if they're real. And yeah, very happy, very happy. So this is about to be the model's toughest challenge yet. So I've got to phase 1.4 here, which is setting up the theming and styling. And I've realized again in the model's planning phase that we no longer need a tailwind.config.js. This is for older versions of Tailwind. And instead we define styles within the theme directives in the CSS files, as ShadCN has done here. So what I've told it is that this is the case. I've said, can you please carry out phase 1.4 of the brief? However, add the custom colors to the theme directives in globals.css. This is quite a nuanced request, so we'll see if it can do it. Off to a strong start. It says, understood. I'll focus on creating the necessary files and updating the styling to include the custom colors in the globals.css file. Let's proceed. We don't need to create one, so we'll see if it can work this out. So phase 1.4 was an interesting one. It's got a lot of dimensions here to unpack. It did successfully do it, so that is the end of the story. However, it did need its hand-holding through it. First things first is the instructions were wrong for it. It couldn't actually find the globals.css file. It was looking in the directory that our plan said it would be in. So I did have to just step in, interrupt it, and say, don't worry, the globals.css file is in the app directory because of the Next.js setup. Look there. Which it then did. And then we went through a bunch of edits where it wanted to overwrite the entire ShadCN theme. And that's okay. I wasn't really up for it to do that whole thing. I thought it'd be too complicated. All I was looking for is it to add the color variables that it wanted here and then add it as an inline style that we could just use instead of overwriting the entire theme, because there's a lot of different colors within ShadCN. So there was a little bit of back and forth there, but it did eventually do it. Then I thought, do you know what? I would push the boat out a little bit and I would ask it if it could remove the dark mode variant of the theme, which it actually did great. Two-shot that, removed the custom variant bit and then also the class that has all the dark mode styles. Did that, two-shot, very happy. It then came back and was sort of talking about the tailwind.config file, which is what we were removing. So it got a bit confused there. I just ignored it. And I said, can we actually now go and update the brief to say, to remove references to tailwind config file as we don't need that. And also remove references to dark mode as we don't need that anymore. It then went through a process of trying its best to find the content to remove. I could have interrupted it here and just gone, it can't do it. It doesn't work, but it did self-correct and remove everything successfully. And here we are. We have an updated plan. Phase 1.4 is done. We're looking at phase 1.5 now here, which is deployment prep. I'm actually just going to go ahead and remove that. I could get the model to remove it, but it's just easier for me to remove it. We don't need to deploy this. So that is phase 1 complete. We have a project set up. We have all the styles set up. We have all the infrastructure ready to go. So we're on the design now. I've given it the plan again and asked it to carry out phase 2.1, which is to start to create some of these UI components in React. It does continue to struggle with finding the source directory despite the Logify prompts in the brief. It is desperate to look for it in the root directory, even though it says it's not there. However, it does overcome it and it does find it. And here we go. Here's our first component coming out of the plan. We're creating the card. So looking at the property card it has just created, it's trying to use a ShadCN component that we haven't installed. It does exist as a component within the ShadCN library. However, it has not picked up that we don't have that. So we'll need to install it. And secondly, although it's found the correct icon within Lucid React, it's got its prop types mixed up. So we're going to ask it if it wouldn't mind fixing that before we move along. So I'm going to install the skeleton component and I'm going to ask it if it will fix the type issue right here. Cool, so it seems to have fixed it. I've installed the skeleton component from ShadCN and it has fixed up the type issue. Don't blindly trust it. It's a model that will help write things out quicker, but it is not going to replace you as a programmer. The only other thing is I'm just quickly going to check this, is if we already have a type for property. We might already. So I'm going to check that as well. We do. So in index.ts here with our types, it already has a property type. So we need to tell it to use that. So see if it can correct that. It's found the file. Nice. What it has done is try to import the types. However, it can't find that. So I'll quickly tell it, copy that. It's gone ahead and fixed that, and it appears to be using the right types, and everything is happy, moving right along. So I'm very excited to see what this actually looks like, because we've been inside VS Code for a long time now, and we're just creating components. And, you know, it's very nice React code, but what it actually looks like is going to be the next interesting thing here. So I'm just working with it here, and it's gone nuts. It's ignored my explicit instructions to do just one of the phases, and it's trying to do all of the phases. But for the fun of it, is I am letting it go with it, because I want to see if it can actually do that. And it has just finished, and as you've noticed, there is a lot of TypeScript errors to sort. But I want to see how, I mean, again, it says, well, phase 2.2 is done, where it's done actually, you know, a lot here. So I'm very curious to see what this looks like. And it's created a bunch of components and a bunch of pages, which is great, but I'm not sure if they're going to be any good. I guess we'll find out. You'll probably join me on the other side, to be honest, as I work through some of these errors that it's created, but we'll see if it's, you know, semi good. So the very first thing I noticed immediately is, again, that it's trying to import ShadCN components that do exist in the library, but it hasn't installed. It's just assuming that they are there. That's going to be an easy fix. I'll do that right now, and then we'll get to some of these type errors. This is what's quite cool about running it in Nanocoder with a VS Code extension, is that I can say that there's problems in the booking summary file. It can then read that file, run diagnostics on it, get the errors, fix the errors. So that's one file down. Let's move on to the next one. See if we can keep pushing along. Cool. Second file done. Let's move on to the guest info form. This one should be an easy one. Great, that's that one fixed. So one of the things I do want to give it real good credit for, and this is a good daily driver, is that this model is excellent at finding issues and fixing it. As I've just gone through all of the components, and there were errors in the components, and I've just said there's errors here, use the diagnostics tool to find the errors and fix them, and every time it's doing a really good job at it. So as a little tip, if you want to use this model as a daily driver, it's really good at error finding. So you can save some tokens with your coding plan. Use this local model instead to find and fix errors in the code if it has something like linter errors within VS Code. Yeah, it's excellent. Right, on to the pages. There's a couple of pages to fix that it created, and there are some errors in those. I'll fix those errors up, and then we should be in a position to get this running and seeing what it's created. We'll check the brief that we're working through, but yeah, it's going well. Okay. We've carried out phase 2, which is all of the core components, and everything seems to be created. We're at 32 file changes now, and I swear to God, we've been using this 8 billion parameter model now for over an hour to carry this out. So again, another piece of feedback is initially is much slower than you might be used to if you're using something like Opus or GLM's 4.7 model. If you're used to these things, then this is a much slower way to work. This is much more like the way that it was when coding agents first came out. This is much more along the lines of Sonnet 3. These kind of things. However, again, you have to have a reality check to where you're at. We're creating this entire thing with an 8 billion parameter model, which could run on a high-end smartphone or your laptop, very modest hardware. And we're almost ready to see something visually. I'm going to get it to create the homepage now, and then we're going to have our first look at what has been created. Again, unlike the very first demo where we created this landing page, this is a much more complicated project. Although we're doing mostly front-end design with just some mock data, this is a complicated task with a lot of files, a lot of moving pieces. We're using a framework this time, not just standard HTML. And this is giving me a really clear insight on what these models are actually good at, and hopefully by proxy giving you guys a good idea of what these models are capable of. Can you use this as an easy answer at the moment? Can you use this as a daily driver? The answer is yes. You can code with this. You can use it to create projects. Would you want to? That's another story. But you can, and it's a real good illustration of where the technology is going. I'm going to have an experiment here. I'm going to get it to carry out all of phase 3, see if it can do it. Can it do it? It's basically got to create a bunch of pages, which it's already created some of, so because it went a bit nuts earlier. So we'll see if it can work through the rest of it. Cool. Now is the moment of truth. I've gone through and adjusted all of the files with the model and fixed the errors with the model, and it's done a good job. It's taken about 15 minutes to go through and fix all the component files and the page files for errors, whether that be an import error or a type error. However, we are now there, and it is the moment of truth to load it up in the browser. Right, welcome to Logify. This is the app that we have been vibe coding with an 8 billion parameter model. And again, I keep saying it across this video, frame your perspective based on that. This is an 8 billion parameter model. Just to give you an insight on time, this has taken about an hour total to put together with the model. That involves also the fixes and everything. That was about 15 minutes. So about 45 minutes to put what we see here together. Do you know what? I was expecting worse. What can we do? Find your perfect holiday rental, discover stunning properties worldwide, book directly, and enjoy unforgettable stays. Incredibly, our store is working. Our Zustan store is working. A dialogue pops up. Look at this. Can we move it down to like, does this work if I go apply? Okay, so it's not filtering anything. Can we view a property? We cannot. Can we subscribe? We cannot. So we can't do a lot, but we have something now visual to work with. I'm going to try and spend the next 30 minutes or so adjusting this web page to make something tangible with this model. Cool. So what we have done is we've fixed the links now. We navigate. Don't judge this page too heavily, but we fixed the linking. What I'm going to do is tidy up some of the styles here. I'm going to send to this search properties. I'm going to get the model to build a nav bar and fix some of these styling based things, with the black star, not the best, but yeah, we'll get to fix that, and then we will move on again to the next part. Great, there we go. We have a nav bar. It managed that with pretty easy prompting. It's added it to the layout, I believe. Yes, it has. So, it's on every page. It's got the shadow. Yeah, perfect. Next, I send to this search properties button. Cool, there we go. Search properties button centered as well. I'll leave the featured properties title. I think that is okay. This image will now fix. Images are now fixed as well. No more horrible padding on the top. That was a really easy fix again for the model. Let's try and focus on fixing this star because yeah, looks nasty. Excellent, that's fixed. I just got the model to remove the outline stars. It just counts the stars now, so we can see this is a full star property. Pretty cool. And we're getting there with this homepage, to be honest with you. I could touch this filters thing. It does work well enough though, so I could, or I could not. So moving along to this page, I know this availability date selector is much to be desired, but the book now button now does actually link over to the next page along, passes the property ID through, also pulls through the property details. Again, this component is much to be desired, so we'll do that next, because we also can't select dates. I want to remind you as well that this is still the Ministral 3 8B model making these adjustments. So here's my sidebar of it, getting it to make that last adjustment, which is to link up the pages. Now, the website is not going to win any design awards, which is something I said a lot in the last video as well, but I have to admit, it's impressive for the size. I mean, I just cannot believe I've been working on this site, and I actually believed, given long enough, now you have to hold your hands up to that, but given long enough, I could actually create a pretty decent site with just this 8 billion parameter model. So, credit where credit is due, and I cannot wait to see what this technology looks like in 12, 18 months, because this is where we're at now. So the next thing I'm going to get to do, which is what it's currently working on in the background here, is removing the availability calendar from this listing page. I don't think that it's needed, and it's actually making it harder to look at. I think once you click book now, then you can select your dates. So we're going to go for that flow instead. Hopefully the model is working on it. Boom. There we go. It's just disappeared, which is wonderful. I'm amazed these are actual images as well from Unsplash. It's just pulled out from its training data. Amazing. So yes, we have our name here. We have the location. We have the cost, the star counts, the amount of guests it can fit, some description stuff, amenities, reviews. Let's press book now. Select your dates. This is what now needs some work. This is looking much, much better. I got the model to clean up this component a little bit. It had got the props wrong on the calendar component from ShadCN. Again, simply getting it to run diagnostics on that. It found the errors, cleaned them up, and now we have mostly a functional calendar. Okay, we are getting there. The model now has put a date range in, which is good, and we have a duration here. It's nice. I told it to ignore availability because it was doing availability, but I just thought for demo's purposes, get rid of the availability bit. And yeah, nice. Only last thing to fix now is the fact that when you press next, despite pressing check in, check out dates, we can't actually proceed. Cool. So I'm going to give you one final rundown of the website that we have created and a summary of my thoughts. So as I've echoed throughout this video, we've been using an 8 billion parameter model. And what we've managed to create in 2 hours I think is really impressive for the size of that model. It's not winning any awards. Would I say use this as your daily driver? No, I wouldn't. But the fact that we've actually been able to put together a actual website, you know, a front end of a website here with dialogues, it's made in React, Next.js. You know, we can come through and look at this page here. It's using state management to get the information through about each of these properties. We have images. We can go book now. We have a calendar where we can select a range of dates, guest information, where we can fill out some basic information out here, have it currency convert to different currencies, edit the booking, keep proceeding, and we proper management, proceed to payment. Yeah, it's a mock payment. And there we go. Confirm booking, booking confirmed, payment successful, back to the homepage. To have this front end mocked up all with an 8 billion parameter model, I think is seriously impressive. And it makes me really very excited for the future of local models to where this is actually going to be going. The experience of coding with this Ministral model has been, mixed. It's been really good at some tasks. For example, fixing errors in files. It's very accurate tool call. It can string together a series of problems and fix them. It's been really impressive. Other times it messes up quite a lot. It can't find patterns in files to replace things, and often it falls back to just rewriting the whole file, which I suppose works. It messes up imports sometimes, and the fact that it's an 8 billion parameter model means it can't hang on to context for an awful long time. So you're very often having to clear context, which means that you have to provide it all of the right information, be very specific about what you want, or it can quite quickly mess up as well. So it does require a lot of hand-holding. However, it has coded all of this from scratch, and it's taken 2 hours to do it. Now, again, perspective is everything. I think really the point of this video is to illustrate where the technology is going. It's not a daily driver. It's not a daily driver yet. Yet is the key word for me. I think that in 12, 18 months' time, these models are going to actually start to be getting to a point where you can actually use them. They're not going to be as good as the frontier state-of-the-art models, but they are going to be a usable replacement for them, should you so want. They're not there, but we're so very close. Thanks for watching, and hopefully that was an interesting video to watch and see what an 8 billion parameter can do with a real project over the course of a couple hours, not just through the first demo that I did. And if you like my content, don't forget to like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. I love the comments as well. So if you've got something to say, I try and read every comment that comes in. And thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.